So when we have a hyperbola, we have the equation, let's say y equals k over x minus p plus q. And what we have to remember from this is that this x minus p, which we can write as x equals p, it's the vertical asymptote. And this part over here, y equals q, is my horizontal asymptote. And the point PQ is where the asymptotes meet. So I can have some value P over here and just create a dotted line. And I could have some value Q over here and just have some dotted line running across there. And using those values over there, I've got my y-axis and I've got my x-axis over here. All I have to decide now is, does the graph end up in the top right-hand side? Or does the graph end up in the bottom left-hand side? All right. Or top left hand side and bottom right hand side together. So to remember that, that's where the k value comes in. So the k value will help decide that. If the k value is positive, then it always ends up in the top right hand side and the bottom left hand side. And if the k is negative, then it ends up in the top left hand side and bottom right hand side. All right. So in this case here, we would say k is positive, but at the same time, if we go the other way, that would be when k is negative for this. Okay. All right. All right. So let's look at two examples over here. Let's have a look at an example where we have the following. So from here we got, let's say y equals to 2 over x minus 1 plus 1. Then this particular hyperbola will center around positive 1, positive 1. That's where the asymptotes will be found. That's the first thing, right? So we got this asymptote x equals to 1 coming from there. And then remember, this is y equals to 1 coming from here. And so it centers around there. So this is your y-axis, this is your x-axis. And we can see that this is a positive 2. So we know it's going to end up in the top right-hand corner of quadrant, you can call it, and bottom left-hand quadrant, something like that. Now this line at the bottom here can move. It can move across. It can go through the center, it can go through there, it can even be through there. So in order to figure out where it would lie, you'd have to find the x-intercepts. So what will this x-intercept and y-intercept be? In order to find the x and y-intercept, we can make x equal to 0 and y equal to 0. If I quickly make x equal to 0, I'll get negative 2 plus 1. And negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. So when x is 0, it's going to go through negative 1. Automatically, it's going to end up passing y at some point. If x equals 0, y is negative 1. And if y is negative 1, then I can move this across, make this negative 2. And then I could flip it over, make it 1 over 2 on both sides equals x minus 1 over 2. And then multiply that, it'll become negative 2 equals negative 1. And it will becomes negative 1 as well. It'll go through negative 1 as well. All right, so I can see that that would be my x and y intercepts. And how did I get that? I make x equals 0, find y, make y equals 0, find x. And that would give me that part there. Okay. So that's my x and y intercept. So I know I've just sketched the graph directly from there. Now, remember, whenever you sketch the graph, you must understand how to go back. And how you would go back would be, remember, you got x equals 1 and you're given, let's say, this value here, which is also 1 in t's there actually, y equals 1 there. And that is the starting part of your equation. You can put it in there. And then you'll have a missing k value. All you need is another point in order to find that. Okay, but that's the idea. If I did it the other way and I made this a -2, then it'll change. So let's suppose I had the equation, the same one, but y equals -2 over x minus 1 plus 1. In this case, it's going to be going through some kind of y-intercept over there, and it'll be going through some x-intercept over there. And it changes completely, right? The entire graph. So for this one, yeah, if I make x equal to 0, I'm going to end up with 2 plus 1, which is 3. So that's going to be 3. If I make this equal to 0, I get -1 on the other side. Flipped around, it's still -1. That becomes 2. And I add 1. So yeah, it's going to equal to +3 as well. So the x and y intercept is going to equal to +3. So those 2 points there, 3 in the y, 3 in the x for this one here. And we can see that just the change in the signs changes the graph completely, but it still centers around, in this case, 1, 1, which is taken from those 2 points there. And we can go backwards and forward every time we need to find a graph like that. Let's look at an example where you're given a graph, right? And you're given these values and you've got to find the equation. So suppose this is given in a diagram and they tell you that this is 2. That's the asymptote there. They also tell you 4. And that's an asymptote there. And from here, you've got this. Well, let's say we go the other way. Let's say we're going this way. And we're going this way. And we want to find the equation. Find the equation of this. Suppose it goes through a point. And let's say this point over here, which is 2 to the left and maybe 2 up. So 2 and 4. So the point 2 and 4 would be that point there that's given, just a random point. If you're given an x-intercept and a y-intercept, you could have easily used that as well. So if you're given this point or that point, you could have easily used that in the equation. But let's write down the equation. Y equals k over x minus p plus q. And I know that my asymptote over here is y equals to 2. So this value will take on that value. X equals to 4. So I know that this value will take on that value. So I know this is going to be y equals k over x minus 4 plus 2 from there. All right, now that I have that, all I need to do is find the k value. So I need to replace x and y with this point over here, x and y. So x equals 2, y equals 4, and all I have to do is substitute it in there. So 4 equals k over 2 minus 4 plus 2. And I'm solving for k now. So I'm going to minus 2. This becomes 2. 2 minus 4 is -2. So -4 will equal k. And that makes sense because it's top left, bottom right. And now I'm done. Got my equation. So my final equation is going to be y equals to -4, because it's my k value, x minus 4 plus 2. And it's done. All right.